Hey, thanks for checking out my video on pricing embroidery strategies for pricing to help you make money from home with embroidery. My name is Chris Blakeman, and I've been in the sewing and embroidery industry for 11 years. I have a certificate in entrepreneurship and have started multiple businesses successfully. And so it's my pleasure to bring this presentation to you to give you some strategies to make money from home with an embroidery machine. So we all know demand for embroidery is normal. If you're watching this, you may even have an embroidery machine or looking at getting one. Maybe somebody's asked you to embroider something for you. And when you get that first job, you want to plan on how to proceed before you go ahead and jump in feet first into throwing a price out there or committing to the job even, and make sure you have a plan. So what can happen if your price is too low? You don't want to make not enough money to pay the bills. You only get one chance at pricing per stitch correctly. If you price per stitch the wrong way, then you may commit yourself to quite a few jobs and lose money. You don't want people to take advantage of you if your embroidery prices are too low. They might keep hitting you up for more jobs at the same amount that you estimated. And you don't want people to think that your work is too cheap. When you see a product or service with a really low price, sometimes people perceive that the wrong way, and they just think you do shoddy work when that's really not the case. And what if the price is too high? If you don't get enough business you won't get enough business, and then you can't pay your bills because you're pricing yourself out of customer relationships. You only get a chance at embroidery pricing pretty much a few times before somebody buys elsewhere. They usually need it right away. There's usually an event coming up. There's usually a deadline. So there's usually a reason why people need embroidery. And you'll lose jobs if you don't learn how to price it the right way. So you don't want to take advantage of people, and you want good relationships, and you don't want people to think you're too proud either. So you want to set some goals. See what your goals are as far as how much your monthly income should be, how much money you want to make after your costs. Step by setting smaller goals, become goal oriented. If you're running a small business, goals are super important. You want to look at goals on a regular basis every day. Writing goals down actually on a daily basis is a super powerful tool, whether you run a business or not, and you should practice it so that you can kind of get started and then dig into the numbers. So an example might be, hey, every day I'm going to make 10 sales calls, maybe more. I'm going to attend some networking functions where I can meet new people and get new customers, create new relationships where I can ask people for customer contacts as well. Joining a chamber of commerce is great. Spend an hour a day for the first 2 months training and learning. Explore three potential new vendors each week. Things like this, these are just good examples of things to write down and then try to get after and accomplish. There's 3 categories for pricing that need to be understood in order to understand pricing, the nomenclature that your customers, your partners, your vendors, and other colleagues will use and understand. So we're going to go over some of these things. There's 2 categories basically in cost analysis. And you need to understand your cost before you start quoting your prices so that you're not breaking even or losing money, obviously, and setting your profit margin to what's acceptable for your goals for income and what's acceptable for your marketplace. So fixed costs never change usually. So you're just looking at flat costs you're going to pay basically on a monthly basis. Monthly is usually the way to look at it. Rent, utilities, lease payments, maybe your machine payment if you've got a professional embroidery machine, which I highly recommend. Don't try to start an embroidery business where you're going to make normal income, which for most Americans is $55,000 to $60,000 a year. As of this presentation, with a single needle machine, it's almost not possible. So you want to try to look at your fixed costs and then set your goals based on that as far as volume and profit margin. So for example, let's say that your specific month is $1,000 in machine payments, fixed supplies, etc., which is phenomenal. A lot of people can start a home business with an embroidery machine and have fixed overhead for under $1,000 a month in many cases. Even if your machine payment's $200, $300 a month, that's not a lot of overhead to go ahead and start a business. And then let's say your sales volume is $5,000 that month. Your fixed costs actually represent about 20% of your sales volume. So if you're operating on, let's say, like 50% profit margin of your gross volume, right there, 20% of that's going right back into fixed overhead. If you're able to double your sales volume, then it's only 10%. So one great way to reduce your fixed cost share of overall revenue is to just create more sales. And generally speaking, with monogramming jobs, as you increase volume, some of your costs of goods sold could decrease as well. There's economies of scale that you can take advantage of. And so you can also look for ways to incentivize your clients to buy more without hurting your profit margin or do additional sales. A lot of ways to increase sales. So a quick exercise, look at your fixed costs. If you check the free ebook that I have in the link in the description of this video, we have a worksheet for this for you. So you can grab that ebook, check out the worksheet, do a calculation. It's a quick starting point. There's variable costs that change with production volume. They go up and down depending on how much you sell, you're going to sell, or how many orders you process that month. Calculating and classifying variable costs of your monogramming machine business can be difficult sometimes, or handling when you're learning how to price embroidery or monogramming job. But get into the details, jump into the numbers, and try to figure out what you're looking at. Your machine setup time, your time getting the embroidery done, like how much you're going to charge per stitch. You want to know that time is money, and that's true for any business, really. Examples of variable costs when doing embroidery can include cost of your supplies and materials, your man hours, your setup time, things like this you want to consider on a job basis, pretty much. So when bidding a job, quoting estimations, look at your variable costs first and then adjust your profit margin to find out what's acceptable for your business, keeping your fixed costs in mind. So you want to make sure you do the math. Don't just approximate things. The devil's in the details. And so if you look at the numbers, you're going to get a pretty accurate picture. Wholesale pricing. This is a term that's going to be commonly used by a lot of your business partners and people you work with in the business side of things. You're going to find that a lot of blank distributors or companies that supply blanks, they have warehouses all over the country. And you can easily contact them and let them know, hey, I have an embroidery machine, I'm running a home business, I want to buy product from you. Make sure you get a resale license. Many of them will ask for this. Some of them just want to see that you have an embroidery machine, so provide them with an invoice of the machine and a resale license to get a wholesale account. I've actually gone through this process and done it, and it's usually pretty fast. Usually if you can just provide some of this documentation, companies like Sanmar and other blank providers will just go ahead and set you up with a wholesale account so you can start getting a variety of blanks from them, meaning blank hats, blank shirts, things you can embroider on bags, aprons, things like that. There's lots of different pricing models out there, but we're going to focus on prevalent methods that don't require sophistication for a small business. Basically, Keystone Pricing is the prevalent method. It's when you take a price that a vendor charges and you double it to reach your retail price. And that's for the blank. So we're just looking at this as far as making money on the blank. A lot of money can be made in home embroidery just selling blanks, basically, that you've embellished or you've added value to with your embroidery. Companies like Sanmar print catalogs at Keystone Price, so you can actually get a catalog. It has the price in there doubled to show your buyers so they can see the options of items they can order from you that can be embellished. So Keystone Pricing Plus, as far as plussing pricing, and this is something that you might even hear about from like the Disney Institute or other really high quality companies that do plussing, is where you add value to a product that already has good value to justify more markup or more pricing. So many times, shop owners are going to start with Keystone and then add extra fixed prices that are lined out and planned in advance for your embellishments. This is like a setup fee, basically, is one way to explain it. And many shops are going to add on cost per thousands of stitches is pretty common. If digitizing is involved, this is another plussing method. So here's an example. Basically, you have a $30 product that costs you half of that. The retail pricing is doubled, and maybe we get to a $5 additional embellishment. The net profit you come out at, almost $20. Minus the fixed cost is a percentage of each item if you really want to break it down that far, which may be valuable to you. Here's an example of a price per 1,000 stitches chart. This is just an example, maybe a recommendation that you could go by. As far as the number of stitches, and then the number of pieces is a scaling method. And we can see how the number of stitches goes up and the volume goes, the pricing starts to go down a little bit for volume, doing more. So there you have it. Or you can go up in the number of blanks to reduce that price too. Okay, and this is good because sometimes people are going to request changes in prices or changes in their quote, and you can easily adjust with a matrix. So I highly recommend setting up a matrix to take into account the changes in volume of the items and the nature of the embellishment. So, examples of pricing for different setups. When we look at this, it depends on the machine capability, color changes, rush fees, embroidery on pile materials, towels, robes, sweaters, that sort of thing. I have a typo there. It says rows instead of robes. Sorry about that. In the ebook, you'll see that these are lined out a little bit more in detail. Packing and shipping, you need to consider your packing and shipping. So there's some examples here on that as well. Examples of pricing for digitizing. This is just an example as far as unit price per thousands of stitches, again, for digitizing. If you're not using digitizing software, you're going to go to somebody else. See if they're going to give you a discount for wholesale digitizing. See if they'll do you a deal if you do business with them exclusively, possibly, so that they can sell you embroidery digitizing a little bit of break, and then you can keystone your digitizing to the customer as a plus pricing. Is one way to cover that if you're not a master digitizer. If you are a digitizer and you feel very confident about your work, go ahead and make money here. I mean, it's just a little bit more money you're going to make. But if you're not, you don't want to waste your time or put out bad quality, you should just find a digitizer that will give you wholesale pricing. When you go forward with an estimation, always offer larger quantities with a volume discount as far as upselling. So say, hey, here's your estimation for the job you wanted. If you want to go ahead and add on these items, these other items I think would be great for you and your organization, or hey, if you want to go up to the next level of quantity, here's your discount. Show them that to try to sell more. Set forth a proposal. On the ebook, we have an estimation example, a form in there with terms and conditions. Here's some terms and conditions here, basically, that may be advantageous for you, like embroidery on defective items. You want to cover yourself there. We're not responsible for quality of embroidery from files not digitized by our company. Prices are subject to change without notice. You can throw that in there too. You may have lots of variables going on here that you need to go ahead and put in, especially like your standard service turnaround time. You may have to adjust that in the template as well upon approval. Once you approve the job, you're going to have a turnaround time, and you want to make sure they know about that, they've signed off on it, so they're not hounding you. Or if they call for an update, you can let them know, and if they're upset, you can say, hey, this is what the terms and conditions were. If you like, we have a rush fee, and I can bump my other customers maybe. But be amicable, be flexible. You have a relationship with your customers, and you want the relationship. You want a long-term relationship with them for repeat orders. So definitely keep a good relationship. Be flexible on pricing. You want to know if they get a quote from somewhere else, so you can go ahead and match that quote, or make sure they're comparing apples to apples and not apples to rotten tomatoes or something. They're getting an estimate for something totally different. Be flexible in your pricing, though. Work with your customers, and they'll let you know. And if you feel like you're running into problems with them accepting your estimation, ask them simple questions to close the sale. Is this the right product for you? Do you feel comfortable doing business with me? Is this estimation affordable for you? Not is it expensive, but is it affordable for you is the question. You'll get answers from these questions. You want to make sure you have a pen and notepad ready. Write down your customers' answers so you can overcome the reasons why you're not getting to the order, so you can get to the order. So thanks for watching the video. Check out the ebook. It'll be sent to you via email as soon as you sign up for it. It's got working templates in it for the things we talked about. Link is in the description. Send us messages with any questions.